going to start today with a little reality check. Has your customer ever paid, then left your store, and you slapped yourself on the forehead and said, "Oh no, I forgot to charge for the bubble wrap again"? Well, we've all been there. The good news is that the ProPack feature in Postalmate can help you be more consistent, efficient, and productive. And when your customers repeatedly get a consistent price for items they have packed and shipped, regardless of who waits on them, it really does help build community trust in your store. And you'll also stop forgetting to charge for the bubble wrap. If I were to bring one of these 3 vases into your store on 3 different days, and 3 different people waited on me, would I get the same price for packing and shipping on that same vase every single time? Well, if you're not using ProPack, the answer may be no. But if you use ProPack, the answer should be yes. So let's take a look at how ProPack works. First, we'll pick a customer and ship to address as usual. Enter the weight of the item to be packed. Choose Next. Choose ProPack, Pack Later, and then choose Next. Enter the dimensions of your item. You can enter description and value now, or you can enter them later. Choose fragility level. Since this is a wooden vase and it's fairly sturdy, we'll leave it set as semi-fragile. Choose Next. Postalmate will choose a box from your inventory that is the closest to the optimum size for the item being shipped. In this case, it chose a 12 by 8 by 8 box. You can see that it is allowing for 1 inch of cushioning all the way around the object. It's also added 1 inch of peanuts as fill. Choose Next. If you have not already done so, enter your declared value. Choose Next. This is where you will verify package specifications and then choose Next. If your screen looks like this, you are in Wizard Ship. We'll click on the panel to switch to Pro Ship. You can switch between these 2 views at any time, but Pro Ship is a more robust version of the rate comparison screen, and it allows you to easily make adjustments to package specifications without the need to go back to previous screens. Select a shipping service. If you look at the upper middle section of your screen, there are some numbers that are important. The first set of numbers are the retail price for the shipping and retail price for packaging. On the far right, you will see A and D numbers. A is your cost on shipping, including declared value, and the D number is your profit. Select Next. Select additional options if applicable and choose Next. Click Finish. Your ProPack estimate will print. This includes the package ID and shipment ID, specifics about the package and contents, as well as the box and fill you will use to pack this item. This label can be used like a recipe, and it's a very helpful feature. For example, when you're busy at the counter, you may have someone else whose job it is to handle packaging while you continue to wait on the customers. All they have to do is look at the recipe. Place your item or items to be packed in a reusable bag, box, or container. Peel back the corner on the ProPack estimate label or recipe, and stick the label on the container. Then just set it aside and pack later. If you have set to print a shipment information label, it will print at this time as well. Notice that there is not yet a tracking number assigned to the package. That will happen later when you process the packed box. You are now ready to take the package into CashMate and charge your customer. Choose POS. I'm going to click the expansion arrow in the virtual receipt so you can see the entire receipt. Click Total. Complete your payment as usual. Choose your receipt options, and this is a great time to offer an emailed copy of the receipt to your customer. One way to get email information from your customers is by offering them something of value, and package notifications are an excellent source of value. Mention to your customer that a copy of the tracking number will be sent to their email when their package is picked up by the driver. Choose OK. The receipt you print at this time will not have a tracking number on it, but that's okay. Online ordering has changed the way people view tracking numbers, and they're just not used to getting a tracking number on an order until the item ships. So your customers are reassured when you tell them their tracking number will be emailed to them when their item is picked up by the driver. Click Finish. After you had time to pack the item and it's ready to ship, in PostalMate, click on Pack. Choose Retrieve ProPack Estimate. Select the correct package from the list and choose OK. Place the package on the scale and verify the weight. Choose OK. In this review window, we'll compare the weight and dimensions from our estimate to the actual finished package weight and dimensions. In this example, the estimated weight and the actual weight and the dimensions are all exactly as we estimated, so we'll go ahead and click OK. Your labels will print with tracking numbers. Unless you have another package ready to retrieve, click Close. In many cases, it really will be that simple. But what about the times when you don't have the perfect box? Or what if you want to change the packing materials that are suggested? Or the weight or the dimensions are not exactly the same as the original estimate? Well, let's look at how to solve some of those questions. If we use the 2-pound ceramic vase as an example, we may want to make a few adjustments based on the fragility of the item we're packing. A ceramic vase is more fragile than a wooden one, so we'll want to choose very fragile or possibly even delicate. We'll choose very fragile for this example. Select Next. Since we chose very fragile, ProPack will choose a box that will give us a minimum of 2 inches for padding all the way around the object. We don't have a 14 by 10 by 10 box in our inventory, so ProPack chose the next closest box, which is a 15 by 12 by 10. Since ProPack can't see the vase, it doesn't know if it's electronics or a delicate book. ProPack knows that based on the volume of the item, it will need 4 units or 1 cubic foot of peanuts to fill the box with the object in the center. However, our vase is hollow, and we don't want to leave the vase flopping around in peanuts where it could potentially shake its way to the outside edge of the box and get broken. So we're going to add small bubble wrap to the vase. We've entered small bubble wrap by the foot in our inventory, so we'll go to Fillers, Wraps and Liners and choose Small Bubble by the Foot. Click Select. Enter the number of units, in this case feet, of bubble. I want 10, but what if I accidentally click an extra 0? And then click OK. Oops, we now have 100 feet of bubble wrap in our recipe, but no problem. Simply click on the item you wish to remove from the list. Choose Remove, and poof, it's gone. Select Bubble again, and enter the correct amount. Click OK, and your entry has been modified correctly. Perhaps we'd like to choose a different box or double box the vase. So we'll go to Containers, and we'll use the drop-down menu to choose the 12 by 8 by 8 box as our inner box. Click on Select, and the 12 by 8 by 8 box has been added to the recipe. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see a little pencil next to ProPack. This is where your time and labor are calculated by ProPack based on materials, fragility, and complexity levels you've chosen. We've not chosen complexity yet. It's currently set to Basic, which is our default, and the charge for Basic ProPack is $6. We're going to go to the top of the screen to change our complexity level. I'm going to change Basic to complex. Notice that the ProPack rate changed from $6 to $19. And also notice that it says ProPack rather than labor. This is something we did during ProPack setup, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. If you must, you may adjust the ProPack amount here by clicking on the pencil, but remember, your services are valuable. We're going to leave this alone, so I'm going to click Cancel. Another option you have is to save commonly packed items as a kit. For example, if Sally were going to bring you the same vase every week to ship, you might want to save it as a kit that you could recall at any time. If I want to save this kit for future use, I would just click on Save as Kit. I would name it something easy for anyone on my staff to find, and then click OK. Click OK again. If you'd like more information on how to set up and use kits, visit our website and do a search for ProPack in the Help Center. We have multiple how-to videos and tech notes on this topic available to you at any time. We'll go ahead and finish this transaction, and then we'll do a recall to show you how to make adjustments to a shipment that is ready to go. We'll choose a service and complete the transaction. After you had time to pack the item and it's ready to ship, go to your main shipping screen and click on Pack. Retrieve ProPack Estimate. Select the correct package and click OK. Place the box on the scale, enter the weight, and click OK. In this case, the actual weight was a few ounces heavier than the estimated weight. The estimated weight was 7.88 pounds, or 8 pounds, but the actual weight was 8.5, or 9 pounds. Since the dimensional weight was greater than 9 pounds, the cost for shipping actually remained the same. Now it's time to measure your box. Perhaps the dimensions are a bit more because you overstuffed the box, or a bit less because you cut the box down to better fit your item. Click the box icon to adjust the dimensions. If I use the example of cutting down the box, I'll need to reduce the second dimension to the correct amount. In this case, we'll make it 11 inches. Changing the dimension will change the shipping price. Click OK. The price for shipping is now $4 less. Where did that $4 go? Well, that $4 goes in your pocket under ProPack. There will be slight differences in ProPack estimates due to weight or box size changes from time to time. Some will be in your favor, like this one, some will not, but most of the time the difference is small, and overall you'll likely find that it all evens out in the end. Most of our customers find that when they stop forgetting to charge for little things like bubble wrap, the money they make on packaging and shipping goes way up. Now I could click on OK and print my labels, or if I change the type of box or packing materials I actually used on this job, I can click on Packing Materials to edit packaging materials used. If you used a different box or some different type of material, you could add it or change it here. You could remove a box you didn't use and add the one you did. And if you're keeping track of inventory, this is an important step. For example, I'm going to change the quantity of bubbles I used. Now I can click OK and my labels will print. What if a customer just wants you to pack something without shipping it? Well, that's no problem. We'll go to Pack, ProPack No Shipment. Selecting a customer is optional but highly recommended, especially if you'd like to connect the customer to the sale. It's also a good idea if you'd like to email them a receipt. Our great customer, Sally Larson, is back, and she loves her e-receipts. Click OK. Click Next. Enter item specifics, and since we're not shipping this vase, we don't need to worry about value. We'll go ahead and click Next. Everything looks good here, so we'll click OK. Your ProPack estimate materials list prints. Click on POS and complete our transaction as usual. Sally just got an e-receipt sent to her phone while we were saying goodbye, and I'm ready for my next customer. Who's ready to see how to get started making more money with ProPack? Awesome. Well, first we need to set ProPack up on your computer. Remember when we talked about using the term ProPack instead of labor? Because people seem less price conscious about a charge for a professional service than they do about labor. You are a professional. You're spending time, money, and energy learning how to be the best packing and shipping specialist you can be, and you have the correct containers and packing materials on hand for your customers. You're not just tossing a shirt in an old used box and taping up the holes. You're following carrier guidelines to ensure their fragile items will arrive in one piece, and that if something does happen in transit, a claim will not likely be denied because of inadequate packaging. That is why we like to recommend you use the term ProPack instead of labor. To change labor to ProPack, we'll go to Tools, PostalMate Settings, Shipping Settings, then we'll select the Other tab. Go to User-Defined Terms and name it whatever you'd like. We like to use ProPack. Be sure to save your work. And then click Close. You may have noticed that the front of my PostalMate screen might look a little different than yours does. This area may have some things or be missing some things that you have on yours. Well, when you first get PostalMate, the only things you'll see here will be ship mail and other activities. The other items you see here are added in settings, and you can find out more about how to set up and use them on our website. But today we're going to focus on ProPack. So here we go. We're going to go back up to Tools, PostalMate Settings, ProPack Settings. Setting up ProPack and customizing it to your store is the biggest piece of time. You're going to need to do a bit of work to get everything set up and fine-tuned, but it will be well worth the effort, I promise. This is where you're going to decide what options you'd like to offer in your store. ProPack is customizable and can do more or less depending on how much you want it to hold your hand. And if you're just starting out, we recommend you stay in basic mode. Some options for you to consider. Will you be making custom boxes from corrugated sheets? Will you cut down or resize or reshape a box using something like a carton sizer? Will you telescope or combine boxes together to make a more sturdy or bigger box? These are more advanced features, but options you can choose. Crating is definitely an advanced feature, but I'd like to show you a sample of what you'll be able to do when you're ready to move on to advanced. ProPack offers a pattern as well as a cut sheet and materials list for building your crate. If I add crating as an option here, it will also show up as an option on the front of my PostalMate screen. Since we won't be doing crating right now, we'll uncheck it. You can always come back and add it later. You may want to select Allow Switching on the Fly, but we do encourage you to start out in basic mode as it will hold your hand a bit more through the process and not offer quite so many options. Advanced mode may seem rather overwhelming to someone just starting out. The next default you can choose is when you want to pack the box. While the customer waits, or after the customer leaves. Now this is a tricky one, so hold on, I want to wade into the deep end with you here. When you first start out in your business, you're often fairly slow. Customers come in one at a time, and you have plenty of time to pack in front of customers. Then you start getting busier, and sometimes packing while the customer waits is really inconvenient. Unfortunately, you've trained your customers to watch you pack. Well, in the past, you did that because you weren't exactly sure which materials you were going to use, or how much of each material, or how much the finished product would actually weigh, right? Well, now you have ProPack to figure all that out for you. And some of you will continue to pack in front of your customers because You want them to walk out with a tracking number on their receipt. However, as a marketer, my personal belief is that if I teach my customers to trust me to pack and ship their items safely without them hovering over me, I'll build more community trust. In today's online ordering culture, people are way more used to getting tracking numbers by email for items they order online. It's not a big deal for them to leave with a receipt that doesn't have a tracking number on it. We're going to use pack after customer leaves as our default. Item entry preference has to do with the item characteristics window in ProPack. If we're in more detail, we have a few more options available. Using our wooden vase as an example, we could enter a percentage of hollow space that needs to be filled. Let's use 50% as an example. ProPack would then know to add more filler to fill that empty space. If we're packing a solid item like a basketball, there would be no empty space to fill. If we choose less detail, those extra options are not available. It's up to you to decide how detailed you'd like to be when working out the packaging in ProPack. You can always switch on the fly, as we're doing here. I prefer to leave detailed as my default, so I'll leave it set to detailed. And I also want to be able to rotate the dimensions of my item to fit my box, so I'll leave that checked and click on Fragility. In basic mode, the price you charge for labor will be determined by these default settings. All of these descriptions are customizable by you based on your individual needs in your store. For example, I'm going to change the additional labor charged on delicate to $6. Over here on the right, under complexity levels, I've made a complex job $15. That could be something like packing dishes or tiny figurines, which take a lot of time. And a custom pack is $20. A custom pack might be something like a custom-made box or a crate. You'll need to decide which of these fragility levels and complexity levels you'd like to set as your default in ProPack. You can always change it later. When you click on a fragility or complexity level, you'll find descriptions that go along with each level in the boxes below. You can always customize wording in those descriptors to better match the types of items you ship in your store. When you're using ProPack, those descriptors will show up here. We're going to move on to the Labor tab now. This Labor tab is for advanced mode, so we won't spend much time on this, but you can set it here. A typical industry standard is $60 an hour or $1 per minute. Some stores charge less, some charge more. It really depends on your area and what your market will bear. There are more items for you to customize in this area when you're ready. Always be sure to save your work. We're ready to move on to the Materials tab. This is where you can set types, defaults, and display order. You can also add boxes and packaging materials here. If you look at the columns next to the boxes, you can see that they have all been entered with weights and dimensions and thickness. It's important to enter this information if you're going to get accurate ProPack estimates. One of the first things you can do to start getting ready to use ProPack is to make a full list of all of your boxes. Weigh each box and note the weight on the sheet. Then you can go into Postomate and enter the weights and boxes all at once. If you've not already added your boxes and packing material into Cashmate, this will be a good time to do so. First, I'd like to set the display order for my materials in ProPack. Click on Display Order. You can manually move materials around, or you can set a default to display in order by volume or alphanumerically. Since I have named my boxes Box with all caps and then entered the dimensions, I personally like to set my materials to display alphanumerically, so I will click it now. Click OK, and we're ready to set type. You'll want to scroll through all of your materials to make sure they're set correctly. For example, I noticed that a box I use frequently in my store was not displaying as an option in ProPack. The box size was 10 by 10 by 5, And as you can see here, that box was set as a fill, not a box. So I'll change it to box, and it will show up in ProPack as a box choice next time I use ProPack. I'll click on box to save it as a box. Just a note here. If you previously entered your boxes in CashMate, they will show up here in this list, but they may not yet be set up as packing materials, or they may be incorrectly labeled as something else like this box was. If you didn't previously set them up as packing materials, it will say none next to them. Perhaps you'd like to add these gift box items as fill items, for example. You'd simply click on none and change it to fill. Once you've verified that all the materials on the list are set correctly, cross-check your list for missing items, correct box weight, and thickness. If you find there are items on your list that didn't show up here, you'll be able to add them in the next step. So let's click OK. Now we're going to move on to adding and editing materials. So first, let's click on Add. Enter the information exactly as you've done for other boxes. In other words, always use the same format. For example, if you enter box, B-O-X, in all caps, enter boxes every time as B-O-X in all caps. Add spaces if you use spaces exactly the same way every time. If you do not enter everything exactly the same way, items will appear out of order in ProPack. You can see here how the lowercase boxes ended up out of order way below the other boxes. I'll assign a unique SKU number to this box. When you enter the SKU, I'll give you a little trick. Most boxes don't come from the manufacturer with SKU stickers, but you can make your own. If the box is a 10 by 10 by 5, I'll make the SKU 101005. All boxes will then have a unique 6-digit SKU. A 4 by 4 box would be 040404. This is a little side bonus. It makes it quite simple for someone ringing up a box sale at the counter. Let's use the 10 by 10 by 5 box we just added as an example. I'll enter the SKU 101005. I love efficient tricks like this one. An important fact: the numbers printed on the bottom of the box are not exterior dimensions. They are interior dimensions. Once the box is filled and maybe bowed a bit, the flaps of the box and the contents usually increase the exterior dimensions. On larger boxes or double-walled boxes, it can be quite a significant amount. We'll add the inner dimensions of the box now using the Tab key to move from entry to entry. This helps ensure we don't forget to enter any important numbers. Enter box thickness. The thickness is in fractions of an inch. The walls of a standard box are 1/4 inch thick, so we'll enter it as 0.25. A double wall box would be 0.50. Enter the weight of your empty box in pounds and ounces. Be sure to round up to the next ounce if your box is between ounces. As we move on to pricing and inventory, we're nearing the end of setup. Packing supply is already chosen as the department, which is correct. Now I will enter the way I purchased the boxes, in this case by the bundle. I will abbreviate bundle BDL. When I press Tab, it will take me to the quantity of boxes per bundle. In this case, it is 10. I press Tab and it takes me to cost per bundle. In this case, it's $8.50 per bundle. Since I'm selling each box individually, I'll leave sold by the set to each. My retail price for these boxes will be $3 each. I'm going to leave labor set to $1, but you could change it here if you wish. If you would like the item you are entering to be inventory exempt, you will check the inventory exempt box. Things like loose packing peanuts and bubble wrap that you use as fill might be some examples of items you don't want to necessarily keep track of every item on. Some of you may choose not to keep track of your inventory at all, but it is something we strongly recommend. If I had more boxes to add at this time, I could click on Add and Duplicate mode. Since I don't, I'll click on OK. Another helpful reason to keep your inventory up to date is that when you use ProPack and choose a box you're out of, the item will appear in red like this. That should cue you or your staff to double check to see if you have that box before you proceed. You may need to choose a different box. If you have more items to enter, click on Add and Duplicate mode, and you can go straight to the next new item. If you're finished adding materials, click OK. Also, at any time in the future, you can always come back here to add more boxes and materials. Now I'll set our default packaging materials. I'll click on Defaults. We'll click in the blank space next to Fill. Choose the fill you'd like to set as your default. Repeat this process for all default materials you'll be using in your store. Then click OK. Click Save. The rest of the settings are more advanced, but I'll go through them quickly. We touched on kits a little bit earlier, but if you'd like more information on kits and other advanced features in ProPack, visit our website. There are tech notes and videos there for you to help get you started when you're ready. You can add or edit kits from here as well as in ProPack. Now we'll click on Other. These are really advanced settings, so we'll just go ahead and close this now. That concludes Intro to ProPack. Happy packing!